Well, hello everybody, and welcome to week 3 of Rocket Royale. My name is Chewy. I am joined by the one, the only, Sploon Shalthus. We're going to be jumping into our first game actually pretty quickly. Shalthus, what's going on? Well, Sploon Shalthus is not your name.
No. Despite whatever Mike Rules would like it to be, that is not actually my official name. It's just plain Shalthus. Yes, I am here once again, and yeah, I guess we're getting things started right away, huh?
Yeah, so we're jumping in with Complain versus SNK Esports. So we have Complain in blue and SNK Esports in orange. So I've actually been kind of out of the loop recently. So what's been happening specifically with Complain as far as roster moves? I know Yemen's in here, I know Duda's in here, or Dadu's in here. There's a lot of names in here that are happening that they should be other places to me. That's the weird part.
Well, I mean, Complain's had a pretty consistent roster. You know, Complain kind of emerged, I would say, maybe 3 weeks ago now, I want to say. And they just kind of started really early dominating the scene. You know, a lot of very impressive wins, very impressive tournament performance. One ESL in their first week. They weren't competing against a full Swarm or Flipside or anything like that, but they came out just blazing really early. And since then, you know, they've been competing here in Rocket Royale. They took the first week of the regular season. Since then, it's been a little bit of Flipside, but
there's Yemen with an early goal.
Yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit of that. Just a lot of Yemen is a very, you know, strong forward. A lot of great offensive shots. You got X3MW, who, to be perfectly honest, has been just a force to be reckoned with, really. But yeah, they're just an overwhelmingly solid team, you know, in a lot of ways. And they've been in the top 3 here in Rocket Royale, and just kind of top 3 in the power rankings for quite some time.
Yeah, and you have way more experience with, as we're looking at Azzy here, you have way more experience with the EU than I do. You kind of have, you are that sleeper NA kind of, I kind of live in Europe anyway kind of. You have this weird outlook in the EU that I really don't have. Seeing these teams play is pretty unique to me, because I'm used to seeing like Untethered, Cosmic all the time, and they have a completely different play style. This is always, it's very downhill. The second it starts going one direction, looks like we have another pretty, okay, maybe not. It's a lot of downhill. The second they touch the ball, they are going as fast as they can to the other net, and that's actually really interesting to see, especially coming into Rocket Royale, this worldwide for the most part, except for, you know, Asia, event. So it's really, really crazy. So we have SNK Esports, who again is relatively new. It's just a couple names that people have seen here and there showing up in Rocket Royale as well. So it's all pretty interesting. I'm really curious to see where this goes. This is round 1 of a double elimination Rocket Royale, so I'm really curious to see where these guys end up going when it's all said and done.
Oh yeah, and it's always interesting to see how the tournament develops. I mean, just last week we had a huge showing from the lower bracket. Swarm got sent down there kind of late, but then they came back and challenged Flipside in the finals. Took a full series off of them, as a matter of fact, before they ended up officially losing. But yeah, as far as this match goes, you know, SNK Esports, for some people who may not be totally familiar, were Apollo 11. So they used to be Apollo 11. Got on the team SNK Esports, big pickup for them. But unfortunately,
Yemen again, and it looks like he's scoring on Azzy. I was actually keeping an eye on Azzy just to see where everything was coming from, but Yemen just coming in up over the top, and Azzy did not have any time to react to pretty much anything. Let's jump back over to Dadu.
Yeah, one thing you were saying about kind of that aggression you see on EU, that is very much a typical EU approach. You'll find that on the very top of the EU rankings and like the top EU teams, they tend to have a very aggressive style, like especially Flipside and Swarm. There's X3MW now.
Okay, that was okay. So X3MW just kind of carry. This is an assist in its truest form. X3MW sitting there and just kind of holding it up and saying, "Hey Yemen, do you want to come in and score?" "No, I'm just going to score it myself. We're all good. We're cool. It's fine. I'll just score it myself. It was going to be an assist, but I'm not going to let you have it now because you already have 2 goals." Like, yeah. X3MW is playing safe, and he is that guy for Complain. He's the I have the technical skill that I need, but Yemen's kind of here to be our goal scorer, right? If X3MW gets the shot, he'll take it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Yemen is definitely the forward, the striker, if you will, for Complain. He definitely comes off with that approach, and you see that a lot, you know. But X3MW, I would tend to refer to him as the playmaker. You know, he's the guy who will set up plays. He's the guy who will be there to pick up a shot when it's exposed. And he is really dangerous. Like, if people aren't paying attention to X3MW and they're just trying to focus on Yemen, then he's going to pick them apart.
There's Dadu getting pretty close, but Yemen's going to actually... maybe not. Okay. So, the thing about Complain, or the thing about all three of these players on Complain that I'm noticing is they're all accurate to a point. They're all going to get it really close to the net all the time, and their ability to react and get back in there is top-notch. Like, you're only going to see that with your Swarm, your flip side. There's a demo coming from X3MW. I don't think he was planning on it, but he got one. But yeah, they're all accurate to a fault, and just being able to follow it up is what makes them, I think, one of those up-and-coming teams that's probably going to end up usurping a couple of the higher-up names at the moment.
Yeah, and they've been doing that over the last few weeks. Like I said, they kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we know Yemen, we know X3MW, we know Dadu individually, and their roles they played on different teams. But they just kind of came out as this unbeatable team, practically unbeatable, when they first showed up. And that was during an ESL tournament, and they just ran it. Like, they owned the whole thing. And then the first week of Rocket Royale, they dominated the winner's bracket, didn't drop a single match, took the whole thing, and it's just been that kind of consistent performance. So, you know, I'm very interested to see where they go from here.
Yeah.
You know, when they've been competing, and I will say, competing directly with the top two guys, the flip side and the Swarm,
right,
as far as EU goes, that's when they're kind of running into their wall. They're hitting that ceiling, and they're like, okay, now we've got to really push hard, because that's where every team hits their ceiling, is against flip side and Swarm. They just kind of, you know, slam into there, and it's like, okay, how do we finish this? But
sure.
You know.
And so we have Complain taking the first match of the series. We're waiting for a couple other people to file in here. Do you think it's going to be a Complain sweep? Do you think SNK is going to start fighting back? I'm curious, because SNK has the team aspect of it down, I think. I think Complain just has this ability to play off of each other, which doesn't necessarily indicate teamwork, right? Hey, I'm going to hit it really hard against the back wall. Yemen, you better be there to pick it up. Versus SNK or Apollo 11 basically being able to kind of follow each other's footsteps. Kind of, hey, I'm going to set this up correctly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I think that the individual skill of Complain might overshadow SNK this game.
And you know, you see that a lot in EU. Like, there are certainly a bunch of teams that have that chemistry, that have that team camaraderie. But so often, like, even if you look at Flipside Tactics, they don't exactly operate. I mean, okay, they are individually probably the best team in the world. You know, I think that's hard to debate. When you've got all three of their members on the same team, playing the same game, and they're Ozzy.
There's Ozzy out of the gate, kind of. Yeah, let's take a look. I wasn't even anticipating that. I didn't jump over at all. Ozzy basically. Okay, that's why I didn't see that. That is one of the hardest things to do in Rocket League, is redirecting a ball that's coming across you, jumping and being able to know exactly where the net is behind you. That takes not only an awareness of where the net is behind you, but also an awareness of how the physics reacts in Rocket League to go, okay, I need to hit it just this way to get it to where I know the net is. And Ozzy did that very, very well off the pass from Lars.
Yeah, that's experience and control right there. You know, that's just really what it comes down to. So for sure. But because I kind of left that point dangling, I'll come back and just wrap it up quickly. As far as Flipside goes, they do demonstrate some very solid teamwork, but they're not the kind of team that if you were to replace one part of it, they suddenly become...
Oh, Lars with the save. I hate to keep interrupting you. Lars' save. That was... Okay, so Yemen's shot, if anyone saw that, Yemen's shot was coming in a pretty decent clip. Lars had to be on top of that, and Yemen ends up coming in and getting it anyway. It looks like he scored that over Huskish, I believe, who had just rotated back in.
Yeah, Husky
got Ozzy was getting there just barely. And that's, I mean, capitalization.
Yeah, just dominating the net. If you're going to constantly put pressure on the net like that and just keep applying shots, something's going to go through. You know, you can't just let a team run roughshod on you like that, because you will get dominated at some point, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, my point really being is that Flipside's not a team that falls apart when you replace one piece of that puzzle. Are they as dominant? No, because they have 3 of the most dominant players in the world on their team, and they're all
XTMW with the steal.
A little cheeky, yeah. A little cheeky steal at the end there.
Should I see? That was Yemen who was going to score that originally, correct? Yeah, Yemen just flipping
Yemen
through the air.
that.
XTMW
Like,
just touching it. Nah, I'm gonna steal that from you.
Let me help you out. But yeah, right now it looks like Complain's finally getting back on track here. My point really being just that, some teams have such a solid team dynamic that you replace one component and it's hard for them to find their groove again. But other teams like Flipside, they're just 3 dominant.
Whoa! Everybody, there were people not even in the match that went after that thing and have nobody touched it. The X3MW, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna just barely touch that. Yeah, it's gonna drop in. Everybody on SNK went for it. People that aren't even on their roster went for it. And no one touched it. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Ozzy was just kind of parked in the net there. Wasn't able to do it really any kind of reactions to that. Those kind of... I often find that you get those really blistering shots and they look really impressive, but sometimes they're a little easier to track. But then you get those slow kind of arcing shots.
The bloopers.
Exactly, and they're so hard to predict exactly where they're going to wind up. Because even if you go... You kind of get caught up, especially when you're in net, of being like, okay... If I go to ball cam, I can see the ball, but I don't know exactly where I am in relation to the net or who's around me.
Oh, man, that backtrack from Lars. He's been playing, in this series at least, he's been playing like a goalie should play, except for when he's completely out in the middle of nowhere, and Dadu's able to pop it and actually knock it in pretty easy.
Yemen comes up off the wall, plays it off, and there's Dadu just
over the top of Huska. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, it looked like a very good start for SNK, getting up on the board early with that really long-range shot over to Ozzy, but since then, it has been the Complain show, and kind of showing why they are such a dominant team, to be perfectly blunt. I mean, they're just coming in strong, and there
it is again.
W again, just extending this lead even further.
Oh, man,
X3MW. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure quite what to expect out of this game. I know Apollo 11, back when they were Apollo 11, I haven't really seen them play as SNK, but it's really just a label, to be honest.
It's also an arcade cabinet that Windjammers is on, so hey, that's a thing, too.
I mean, in general, I know how good they are. Like I know what they're capable of, but they're one of those teams that can run a little hot and cold. You get some games where they are just really dominant and really impressive, and then you get other games where they start to come short a little bit. And
yeah, I mean, Untethered is the other team like that, right? Like, you have... Untethered plays very well, and then all of a sudden, Lachinio might be a little bit out of step one day, and that throws the entire chemistry of the whole team off. When you have your anchors not playing extremely well, or they're playing well, they're just not playing as themselves, right? Lachinio's ground game, his ability to manipulate the ball is huge. If he's just pulling, like, sad junior-level aerials all day, that's going to completely change the dynamic of his team and make them play a little bit subpar.
Oh,
Lars with a save.
Nice little epic stop there.
Yep. And it's funny, the more and more you see the shots coming out this game, the lower I'm noticing that they're coming in. So you're, the first Rocket Royale I casted was the Gauntlet, and everything seemed to be going high. It looks like they corrected that, but they're trying to put the ball in almost all the time. It's rolling across the ground.
Yeah, you know, a lot of teams are kind of changing up their approach, because it seemed very early, even in the scene itself in competitive Rocket League, it seemed like you could really win games just by taking advantage of nice high aerial shots and putting it high in the net and stuff like that. But that's changed a lot. Teams kind of understand that that has become sort of the default. So now you got to throw shots at them that are a lot more unexpected. You got to do the low shots, the rolling shots, the blooper shots. You know, you got to find different approaches. And there's
Ozzy.
Trying to close this gap.
Kind of capitalizing. I mean, there's 30 seconds left, but at least Ozzy's able to capitalize going, okay, hey, look, there's no one at the net here. I'm just going to, just push it in. Marty, we got some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think as it stands right now, scoring late goals can be pretty good going into the next game, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be going to the NA servers for the next game here. So that could be good for SNK. They're going back to home servers, I believe. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me. But, yeah, I think we're going back there, so they're going to have maybe a little bit of momentum on their side. Finally getting some goals on the board. Yeah, they're definitely going to drop this game. I think that's inevitable.
Can they roll one? No, they can't roll one. Okay, never mind.
No, they almost had it. Pretty close, but, yeah, it looks like that didn't quite work out. All right, so yeah, and there they go. So
Okay, yeah,
players are flopping out. So
we're gonna jump over to the NA server. Jump over to my fancy little Stay Tuned banner. We're gonna jump into the next server. So just bear with us a few seconds here as we jump over. All right, so. Bop, bop, bop. There we go. We got music back. Everyone bear with us like a few seconds. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. We are coming back. We have a game. We have a game 3 to decide. Complain versus SNK. Welcome back, Splunge Shalthus. I'm going to call you that for the rest of the day.
why? Why must you?
Because every time I say it, Twitch chat just fills with micro subs.
Our first time casting together, which by the way I'm very excited about. It's been I've been looking forward to getting the opportunity to cast with you for a long time now, and you start things off like this. Why do you do this?
I don't know. Because you have your own emote, and I'm trying to get it to the point where it becomes a global emote, because I'd love Splunge Shalthus to be a global emote. Twitch cops, if you're listening, hey.
Oh boy.
All right, right off the bat, X3MW.
Yes.
We're not even talking about the match yet, and X3MW is like, hey, pay attention to us. Look at how good I can score goals in this video game. Dadu is there looking behind him, X3MW just punching it in right at the beginning.
Yeah,
So,
see, just as I'm about to say, here we are, we're on the NA server, has it tilted now in SNK's favor, and just as I'm about to kind of start that whole, presentation, you get Complain immediately scoring right off the bat. So in other words, well, I don't know. It is still a little early, so maybe momentum can shift a bit, but that's not how you really capitalize.
So as much as we like to have kind of dramatic, go to a game 5, oh man, it's an overtime in a game 5, yada yada. Like, as much as we like to see that, I do also really enjoy seeing, not necessarily a rout, but I like seeing a team like Complain in an environment where they're comfortable, right? They're confident in their ability to win, but I want to see how they react to that. Do they get cocky? Do they just start pulling shots? It looks like they're composed. It looks like they're they look like a top-tier team kind of sweeping this match. Sweeping the series, at least.
Yeah, and they very well could, absolutely come out and do that. And Complain has looked nothing short of a top-tier team, to be perfectly honest, since they started. And I think that's been a great break, especially for a player like Yemen, who, obviously we followed for a long time. And speaking of those low-rolling shots...
Whoa. Yeah, that just blew by everyone. We're going to take a look at Lars, because I believe he was in there on that. Yeah, there's Huskish and Ozzy both kind of out of the way, and okay. I mean, it just goes by everybody. I don't know if that is miscommunication on the part of SNK, or if it's extremely relevant and timely shot selection on the part of Complain and X3MW specifically.
Yeah, and it can be hard to say sometimes. X3MW has that skill. He certainly has the ability to definitely pick his moment and place a shot like that. But, it just kind of thread the needle a little bit, go either in front of or behind everybody to get into that net. So, yeah, right now, Complain just looking like their usual selves here. You know, and one thing I have to wonder, because we talked about this earlier about the slight difference in play style between EU and NA, and how EU typically has that very aggressive style that you're seeing a lot out of Complain here, and you typically see out of other top-tier EU teams. I'm kind of wondering, with a team like Apollo 11, who I don't think has a lot of this top-level experience playing against EU teams, is this just an approach that they're not really used to? You know?
Right.
I don't think they've played against teams like Flipside or Swarm or anything like that, who typically have this, you know, very aggressive, three-forward, constant pressure style of attack.
Right, and I'm not so sure that they consider it free forward as much as they don't assign labels to their, much like your high school girlfriend didn't want to be your girlfriend per se. I don't necessarily think they're assigning labels to their positions, right? You have Cosmic and you have Kronovi and Sad, or Kyle Mask and Sad today, who are both kind of in the forward position, but you still have Gibbs playing that defensive-minded role. You don't quite have that with most of the European teams. Sure, they might have someone sitting in the middle because they're a little bit more accurate from range, but they're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm the defensive player on our team. And that's what makes it seem more aggressive. Individually, they might not actually be more aggressive, it's just the way that the team is set.
Oh, sure. But I mean, if you watch a team, especially Flipside, I think Flipside kind of, not only, I don't want to say
it's just, they're just rolling in. Like, it's like the net's really, really short all of a sudden. Like, nothing can go any higher than that. It's just going to roll past everybody. And that happened for SnK, right? Like, there's not really, that's the trend today. Everyone's just going to get out their putters. You're just going to Happy Gilmore the entire day. That's what it is. Get in your home. Are you too good for your home? That's today. Yeah, it's to keep it low.
Nobody needs to worry about aerials or anything like that. These are the kind of goals that I'd be capable of stopping because I'm not good at aerials, but I know how to drive on the ground. So I could keep up with this sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean something like I was saying with Flipside, and they kind of dominated this particular style of approach. They do use like a very aggressive style, in which case they typically have all three players on the opposing side of the pitch. And they'll cover the whole side of the pitch. Like, they'll have players on both sides and in the middle, but they're all over there on their opponent's end, so that every rebound, every attempted clear gets shut down. And that's the only way an approach like that works. Because if you can't stop those clears, you can't do it right. And if you try to emulate the Flipside style or the Swarm style, or we can even refer to it as the EU aggressive style, if you try to emulate that and you're not good enough, you will be punished all day.
Yeah, and if you're not aware enough to be ratcheting back and forth and going, hey, we don't have this advantage in the offensive zone, even if the ball's still there. That's a shot from Yemen.
That's the insurance goal right there.
Right outside.
Tight 2-1, and Yemen. Look at this setup by X3MW and Yemen
just beating Lars, knocking it directly in. That's a really good shot. That's an awareness shot from Yemen, and you say it a lot. There's a level of accuracy that you need, but when you have awareness like that to be able to redirect a ball and still get some force behind it, that is where you need to be a competitive player in Rocket League. So it looks like that's actually going to wrap it up as soon as the ball touches the ground. It looks like everyone's going to abide by Rule 1 all the way until it's on the other side of the field. So that's it, actually. Complain, 3-0s, SnK. SnK moves down to the losers bracket, and Complain will move on to round 2 of the winners bracket. So we are going to we're going to find out who the next match is. We're going to jump back over to our handy dandy stay tuned screen, and we will be back in just a few moments. Continue listening to the wonderful Rocket League soundtrack. We'll be right back, everybody.